Welcome to the Construction Disruption Podcast, where we uncover the future of design, building, and remodeling.
I'm Todd Miller of Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building materials. Today, my co-host is Ryan Bell. Ryan, how you doing today?
Hey, Todd, I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well also. We had our first snow yesterday and a little bit of snow on that Browns game, I guess, from what I hear, and that was coming down. So
it's an excellent game to watch, yes. The Browns came out on top, thank God. Surprisingly.
Yeah. Good deal.
Well, hey, you want to hear a joke about pizza before we get started?
That's what I've been looking for all day. That'd be awesome.
Well, never mind. It's too cheesy.
It exactly was.
Yeah.
That was the unjoke.
That was the unjoke. Yeah. I got one more for you, though. How do you know when your clock is still hungry?
Oh, now it seems like I should be able to figure this one out.
I think you should.
I don't know. Got me.
It goes back 4 seconds.
I am confused.
Goes back for seconds like a second plate of food.
Back for a second. Oh, my gosh. Oh, that was good. It got me. That was good.
Maybe that doesn't qualify as a dad joke if it was not immediate.
Yeah, that one's a little more esoteric.
If you have to mansplain it, it is not. It does not work out.
I agree. That was a failure.
You should have stopped at one.
That was a failure. Yep, you're absolutely right.
My first wife always used to tell me, "Quit while you're behind." You know, I understand.
I think it's a couple levels above a dad joke. It's just you're operating on a higher level today, Ryan. I don't know what else to say. Hey, well, I'm excited about today's show, and once again, just so our audience knows, we are doing our challenge words, where each of us on the show have been challenged by one of the others to work some word or phrase into the conversation as seamlessly as possible. And at the end of the show, we'll kind of reveal what those words were and whether we were successful. So, you ready to go, Ryan?
Yes, let's dive in.
Good deal. Well, in recent years, we've seen a rapid growth in the popularity of podcasts. Perhaps you're even wondering whether a podcast is right for your business. Well, today we have a truly special guest. I'm really excited about this. Been looking forward to this show. I know it's going to be a lot of fun. He's joining us to talk about podcasting, and I know we'll have a few other things in there as well. So Doug Sandler, co-founder of Turnkey Podcast, is a seasoned entrepreneur, author, and podcasting expert. With years of experience helping businesses and individuals launch and grow high-impact podcasts, Doug has been instrumental in turning conversations into meaningful connections and profits. He's also the co-host of his own show, the Nice Guys on Business podcast. Doug, welcome to Construction Disruption.
Hey, Todd. Hey, Ryan. I like I said at the top before we hit record, I kind of feel like I'm fangirling here. I've been listening to your show since we met, Todd and Ryan, and enjoying the content. Thanks for putting out such excellent information for your listening audience. I'm excited to be here.
Well, thank you for joining us. We're excited to hear what you got to say and learn and see where this goes. So I know you have had a career that has included a lot of things. I think there's been some marketing in there, speaking, authorship, DJing, and now you're a leading expert in the world of podcasting. Can you tell us a little bit about that journey and how Turnkey Podcast came to life?
Yeah, man. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. It seems like a lot of stuff that has been packed into my past, but really there's only been two careers. One as an entertainer for 30 plus years in the Washington, D.C. social scene. And then the transition to the new career as a podcast producer, which just came by happenstance through promoting a book that I had written back in 2013, 2014. It came out. We started the podcast as a result of writing a book, and I wanted a promotional resource for it, and I thought the podcast would be a great tool for that, and it was, and it has served a great purpose. It wasn't until a couple of years into podcasting that actually we found our first production client, which started this whole different avenue of career growth and deliverables and services provided. And happy to chat to work into any of those things that you want to, but have really enjoyed 10 years of podcasting. 1,600 episodes, 6 million listens down the pike, and literally millions of dollars in revenue that has been created from it. And I had no idea what I was getting into until I actually got started.
Very interesting. Well, you said it kind of started with promoting the book. I'm curious, what was the book you wrote?
So I wrote a book back in 2013 that came out in 2014 called Nice Guys Finish First. And it's all about the career journey that I took as an entertainer and delivering an exemplary customer experience, because I really think that the thing that separates or differentiates a lot of people in any marketplace is not just the deliverable, but how they deliver it, exceeding expectations, one step at a time. And I was a $5,000 DJ in a $500 market, and all of the competition would say, how is this guy pulling down, $5,000 to do a job and doing 80 to 100 of those a year? And they just didn't understand how that happened. And I said, it's not about the 4 hours of the event. It's the year and a half that led to the event. And then the year and a half after the event, staying in contact with your clients, that led to more business and bigger business as my career evolved. And I just taught people all about the customer experience, not about equipment. So that's kind of how that whole thing came about. And that's how the book started. I saw the writing on the wall. Somewhere around 45, I'm almost 60 now, so almost 45 years old. I saw a decline, not a steady decline, but enough of a trickle of a decline in my DJ business. And I kept thinking, do I want to be that guy out on the middle of the dance floor doing the electric slide and and the cha-cha slide at 60? And I could see clearly that I did not want to be doing that for that long a time. Maybe at 30 it was fun, and at 35 it was okay, and 40 I'm like, getting a little bit hurting on the weekends, and then at 50 though it's like, no, I don't want to do this much longer. So not because I didn't like it, but because it took a toll, as you can imagine, on the body. So that was the beginning of the whole podcasting journey for me.
Very interesting. Yeah, sometimes we kind of morph those careers a little bit as we age. But I don't know if anyone remembers. I'm probably the only one who remembers this, but there was a guy a number of years ago who came out with a video called The Evolution of Dance.
Yes.
And it was one of the first huge YouTube things that everyone had to watch. And kind of interesting, that guy and I went to the same college. He's younger than me, but I had met him, and it's been interesting to watch. He had to change his career. He realized he did not want to spend his whole life doing the evolution of dance. So
right,
very interesting.
Right. I think everything is it's a cooperative exchange from one place and transition to the next place. And if you enjoy what you're doing, it doesn't matter what you're doing, as long as you are doing it and doing it well, and you have a good attitude and you're really positive about it. Just keep rolling. Whatever your career is, you don't have to be a DJ forever. If that's what you want to do, then great, continue. If I felt like I wanted to have a deeper impact with what I've learned through the lessons that I've learned through my first part of my life.
So you started your own podcast, The Nice Guys on Business, and you started doing this. Well, at some point you decide, hey, I think I can help other people do this. What kind of inspired you to think, gee whiz, maybe other people need help with this?
We had no idea that podcast production was going to be even something that we started with. I was teaching people about customer service and customer experience and building up the customer journey. And it was one person in our audience. His name is Lou Diamond. And Lou came to us through our audience and said, hey, Doug, I appreciate you sharing all that stuff you're doing about customer service and all of that. But I want to learn how to start a podcast. You guys have been doing this for 2 years. You got 100 plus episodes out there. How can I do this? And I said to him, this is all through email exchange, because we shared that in our show notes. I said, Lou, I have no idea how much I would even charge you for that. What would you pay for that? And how long would you like that to take? So we developed the product with Lou, and that was the first of literally 350 plus clients over the last 7 years of doing this. And it has been such a great journey. So it found us, which is another lesson to learn. If you're looking for opportunity, it will find you, as long as you have an open brain for what opportunity is as it comes to you.
Very interesting. Good stuff. Well, you're in this world podcasting, you're helping others. Can you give us a few facts and figures on podcasts? I keep hearing things like there's 10 million new podcasts every day and everybody's got 4 zillion listeners, but Anyway, what are some facts?
Yeah, I'll give you some of the stats as I know them. About 546 million listeners are worldwide in the podcasting space, and nearly half of the population listens to at least one podcast a month. Now, I listen to one podcast in an hour. I'm a podcast junkie. I don't necessarily listen to true crime or history, but I do listen to a lot of news and try to stay up to date with things. And I'm sure they all have their certain angle, the Journal and the Daily and New York Times, all their podcasts. So I listen to a bunch of those. Let's see, 33% of podcasts are viewed on YouTube. 24% are listened to on Spotify. And while it used to be that Apple was the big gorilla, having 80+% of podcast listeners, it's down to 12% of podcast listeners listen through Apple Podcasts. So that's a total of, I think it's 60, if I do my math right, 69% of the podcasts are listened to on those three channels. There are 6 million podcast titles that are out there today. 70% of those 6 million are inactive, which means they haven't produced a show over the last 90 days. 97% of podcasts that are out there make no money. 97% make no money at all. There is a 0.1% that actually make enough to support a living for anyone, and 1% of the shows make any sort of appreciable living of more than $1,000 a month. So if you are a podcaster or thinking about podcasting, you want to focus on, if you have a podcast that's related to business, you want to focus on how do you monetize and how do you grow your podcast financially? Because if you don't get any ROI, a good business would tell you, look, if there's no ROI coming from it, then why would you continue doing it? It's a waste of your time.
Yeah, good stuff. And stuff that we kind of wrestle with a little bit too. But so before I go too far in depth on that, I do have to ask you a question. So when you listen to podcasts, do you listen to them on standard speed or at a...
I wish I could listen to them on half speed, because sometimes I don't really, my podcast production business, while I would love to say it's a 40 to 50 hour a week job, I have such a great team that it represents about 15 hours of my work. It represents 100% of my income. So what I do is I really use, if you count podcast listening as a part of my workday, I would probably put another 5 hours a day into. I love listening to podcasts. Like but when I knew I was going to be a guest on the show, before I actually was sitting in the guest seat, I'm ODing on Ryan and Todd and seeing what you guys are about and learning some of your lingo. It's really hard sometimes when you are either a guest or you're a host of a show. If you don't know about your guest, and if you're a guest, if you don't know about your host, doesn't it make for a great conversation? So I do spend a lot of time listening to podcasts, even just normal ones like the shows that you and me have.
Very interesting. Well, the reason I asked that, yes, there was a reason. I pretty much, when I listen to podcasts, I listen to them at double speed. And if I go back and listen to standard speed, it doesn't work for me. So I listen to everything like, they're chipmunks careening down the hill on a toboggan. I mean, that's what it sounds like. But
well, and for me, if I listen at 2-speed, it is sort of like a head-on collision with information. I can't take it in that fast, and I need to listen to it a little bit slower so that I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. So for me, I need to listen to it a couple times through. And sometimes I do. I listen to episodes a couple times once I know the person, and then after and before I get to know them a little bit. So that's a cool way to listen to.
Well, you kind of touched on it, Doug. 70% of all podcasts are kind of inactive, but it seems like there are lots of shows out there, and many of them never make it past about the 5th episode. What are some of the challenges and surprises people run into that prevent them from continuing?
I think the biggest challenge that there is with people with podcasting as it relates to continuing to podcast is they don't set a stake in the ground. They don't have a target that they are shooting for. A lot of people have an unrealistic metric that they are comparing their success to. And we all look at guys like Joe Rogan and Tim Ferriss and Tony Robbins, these guys that have millions of people in their listening audience, but they came to podcasting with millions of people in their community already. So somebody gets started podcasting and they're like, hey, if I don't have 1,000 listens, downloads on this particular episode or in the next couple of months, I'm going to stop podcasting. Well, I don't care whether you have 1,000 people listening or 100,000 people are listening or 10 people listening. If I have 10 people listening, taking action, it means a lot more to me than 1,000 people listening and doing nothing. So people don't have their goals set properly as it relates to community growth, influence building, brand awareness, conversion of listeners to clients. And I think they set the wrong goal as it relates to podcasting. The other thing that's interesting is they don't realize the effort that must go into podcasting. They think, oh, I just have my phone and, I can record something. Well, it's a little bit more complex than that. You guys can see you have 2 professional microphones. Ryan, you mentioned earlier, you do the editing. You hate doing the editing. So it's like, okay, those are the things, like at least you have the skill set to do the editing, but oftentimes people get into it and they don't have the skills, which is where we came in, quite heavily in a lot of our clients. We have a B2B business. So there are many things that people don't think that go into podcasting behind the scenes other than just opening up a microphone and go.
The scariest part of everything you said there was when you started saying a lot of people start without a stake in the ground. And I'm thinking that may be my whole problem for life. I don't know. Maybe this goes beyond podcasting.
And that may be the case in life in general, but in the podcasting space, if you don't hang your hat on a specific KPI, a key performance indicator, then you are never going to know if you get there. What happens if you get to 6 months and you turn around and you've had these 5 deals come in as a result of you having a podcast, but your goal was, hey, I was looking for podcast listeners and downloads. Do you care how many downloads you have if you were able to make $100,000 from your podcast? Probably not. It's all about putting the right magnifying glass on the right components of your podcast metrics.
Gotcha. Well, we've just talked about some of the pain in the butt aspects of the whole thing, but why is it that you think podcasting can be a real powerful tool for connection and branding and so forth?
Well, I imagine podcasting in the future to be the sales tool of all sales tools, because we have so many different opportunities within the podcasting space to develop business. One is you're creating the know, like, and trust factor with an audience that's been listening to you. I have been doing my show for 10 years now, 1,600 episodes. We've had some listeners that have been listening from the very beginning. If you don't think that they know us, like us, and trust us now at this point, then we will never have that know, like, and trust factor for them. In a traditional sales environment, when you're calling on a prospect, you literally have 10 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, maybe 30 seconds to make that first impression. And it's very, very hard to convert somebody into a trusting soul in that short period of time. So that alone, the connections that you make with your audience, the relationships, I always call it the hidden gifts that you get from podcasting. Think about this in your 200 plus episodes that you guys have had. Think about how many relationships that you've built with people or had the opportunity to build with people that have sat in that guest seat of yours. How many closer connections that you have been able to make with those people that you wouldn't have necessarily made had you not had your podcast as the tool. So that alone is 2 reasons why I really feel like we are, even though 10 years ago when I started, I thought maybe it's too late. Maybe I'm getting started too late in this game. Even today, when people are getting started, you are getting started at the perfect time right now in the podcasting space. Everybody knows it. It's more popular than ever. Amazon, Spotify, huge companies are going all into podcasting, spending millions or billions of dollars on podcasts. Why not, be a part of the wave right now?
Good stuff. Well, you have worked with a lot of clients through your business. I'm just kind of curious, are there any standout success stories that, really show the power of podcasting? And to what degree, you mentioned that ability to connect with the audience. I'd love to hear a little bit more on how that relates to the success of a show or not.
So it would relate to the success of the show if that was your goal. So if your goal is to connect with your audience, grow a community, become more, having people be more brand aware, I would say that there are absolutely success stories that are within our client umbrella that do that. Many of our clients have a podcast related to the business that they're in. For example, Be That Lawyer, Steve Fretson's one of our clients, and he has a business that he sells to attorneys. So his goal is to grow his community filled with attorneys, and also put people that are in the guest seat to have an opportunity to learn what he does too. Highly successful. He does not have millions of people listening to his show. He might have 500 to 1,000 people listening at any given episode, which is great because that's all he needs to make a mid six-figure income from his podcast. So Steve is a great example. Karen Briscoe, 5 Minute Success, another example of a success. She wrote a book. She used the podcast as the tool. Her book is called 5 Minute Success. She's built a lot of relationships with the people in her audience, and as a real estate agent, created a lot of transactions with those people that are in the audience because she has the right message for them to listen to. A real fun one. Stan Haycock has a show called Fun with Annuities. Millions of dollars in annuity business has come to him by way of his podcast that he never would have had it not been for his podcast and his YouTube channel. So those are just 3 stories that I share of clients of ours that I didn't have to sell them into podcasting, but to understand where their goal was coming. All of them thought, I got to build a big audience to make a lot of money from my podcast because they're all connected to their businesses. But the reality of it is they don't need to build big audiences. They just need to build the right audience. And that's one of the things that we really stress here at Turnkey.
Wow, I love that. And that really kind of sheds whole new light on things for me because, we hear a lot about monetization of podcasts, but if the whole point is to go out and create business for yourself or create those contacts and those relationships, well, that's the monetization. It's not getting sponsors and things.
Yeah, I was going to say, can I ask you guys a question? And I think you just answered it, Todd. Todd, Ryan, if I said to you, when people get started podcasting as clients of mine, what do you think that they think the number one resource for getting money is? What do you think? Where do they think the money comes from in podcasting? Ryan, I'd love to ask you.
I would guess that they think they're going to get sponsors.
Okay. And how about you, Todd? What would you think?
I would have said that they're thinking that they're going to get more customers.
Okay,
somehow.
Cool. Well, Ryan's answer of getting sponsors is absolutely where most people think the money comes from in podcasting. The secondary thought is exactly what you said, Todd, is they think, hey, if I can't get it through sponsorship, I guess I'm going to try to find clients. However, most podcasts that are, I would say, active, meaning more than 90 days since they've created they've created episodes within the last 90 days and longer than 12 months old, meaning they've been podcasting for 12 months and they create episodes once a month, twice a month, 4 times a month. They are actually making the majority of their money from their clients and $0 from advertisers. Because if you look at the national focus on advertising, the numbers are for every 1,000 listeners that you have, you're going to equates to $25 in advertising. Okay. So if you have the average show, which does about 200 listens per episode, you're going to make $8 for advertising. Would you change your messaging for $8? Hell no, I never would do that. So I always encourage everybody, can we put down the ego metric for a second of I'm going to get more downloads and focus really, and again, I'll be, is it okay if I'm like completely open with dollars and cents here? Okay?
Sure.
Our podcast makes $400,000 a year for us as a business, and not, I would say maybe $20,000 comes from advertising. And that's only because we've been around for 10 years. So the $400,000 in revenue that we make from our show comes 100% from audience and guests becoming clients of ours.
Wow.
And I don't even focus on, you give somebody the opportunity to put advertisers in their as a part of the revenue stream. And I've just created another job for somebody because now you've got to go out and look for sponsors. You've got to pitch the sponsors, and that takes you away from your core services, which in your case is not advertising.
Well, and it's interesting. We have tried a couple of sponsorships, folks that approached us and said, hey, I want to sponsor your show. And, at the end of the day, we're like, oh my goodness, that was not worth the hassle.
And then you're beholden to them and you kind of have to think about, is my message aligned with what the sponsor, and did I represent them properly and all of this stuff. And it's like, hell no, I don't want to do that. All I want to do is continue creating great content. And if I can make money at it, great. The key is to understanding where the money comes from. Now, everybody has a different perspective on and a different goal on where that money comes from. Yours might come from, I call it the guest to gold strategy. Yours might come from having referral sources in your audience or in your guest seat. Some might come from finding clients in their audience or their guest seats. Some might find it in affiliate relationships. Some might find it in joint venture partnerships. Some might find it in this category that I call, I don't really know where you fit into my life, but I certainly love having conversations with you. Let's talk a little bit further about what we can do together. When you look for opportunity in podcasting, it finds you. If you're only focused on how do I get more listeners, who the hell cares? Do you really care about how many anonymous people you have in your audience? That's an ego metric that will never be satisfied. So for me, it's all about conversion of the right people to the right services for me. If I said to you, hey, Todd, hey, Ryan, I'm able to bring into Isaiah Industries an extra $1 million a year of revenue into your company, would you care if it comes from your audience or your guest or how many people are listening to your show?
No, absolutely not.
And that's what our goal is. Our goal is to realign the brains of everybody that comes into our ecosystem so they understand that podcast monetization does not come from advertising and sponsorship for normal people like you and me. And it does not come from the size of your audience. Size does not matter in this case.
Gotcha.
So quick question for you. When you mentioned the statistic about, I think you said 97% of podcasts make no money.
Yeah.
Is that podcasts that make no money from their business or sponsors or just
any money? They can't even tie it. They can't tie a cent back to it. I mean, you think about it. Look at all the podcasts. Just go through the list of podcasts that are out there on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You're like, oh, that doesn't make any money.
Sure. Yeah.
If you're a plumber and you have a show about cooking, you're probably not making any money, right? So if you have a podcast that's related to your business, which you guys do, you guys should be raking it in. I'm not saying that from a trying to prod the bear here. You guys should be raking it in as it relates to revenue from your show. And that's not because you have an advertiser or a sponsor. It's because you're generating business using the right words, the right call to action, and the right strategy to put that together.
Good stuff. I love it. Love it. Well, you talked earlier about, podcasts you think are the next great salesman or something of the future. I forget how you worded it, but tell us a little bit about what you do see the future of podcasting being. Do you see any trends or innovations or changes, or does it just kind of stay like it is, but maybe more people figure it out and get better at it?
Well, technology has made things easier than ever. Things like show notes. If you're not using a show notes style AI tool to write them, and all of the things. So it's not just about writing show notes. It's about providing transcription for better SEO. It's about coming up with key bullet points about the episode, summary about it, quotes from some of the guests or some of the or from the hosts of the show. It's about promotion on social media. If every marketing department of every company in the future, I see having a podcast as a tool, because it's not only a community growth and influence builder, it's also a customer educational tool that could really benefit the organization. Talk about a CEO of a company being transparent enough to have a podcast and having their audience and their customers fall in love with that CEO. Now we're talking about some serious connection and brand loyalty when you have somebody that runs an organization, has team members from the organization on the show, having an audience fall in love with them by being transparent. That's the greatest thing that podcasting provides. And that's where I see the future of podcasting, is that doesn't matter how many listeners that you have. If you're a plastic surgeon and you want to educate your audience and you have 200 people on your email list, send it to your 200 people. You don't even need to post it to Apple Podcasts. You just send it to your customers and your patients. That becomes a very valuable tool as it relates to business growth.
So here's a question. Do you feel like someone who is podcasting for the purpose of, growing their business, should they not worry about being repetitive in terms of from show to show?
When you say repetitive, you and I are having this conversation. You're asking me my story, but I'm sharing my story through a different lens because you're asking the questions. I'll go on another show and share it slightly differently because that host is asking a question. We've done 1,600 episodes. We joke about some of the repetition that we've had. My partner is not a big fan of national parks. I'm a fan of national parks. I love fishing. I love wildlife. I love going out and visiting. We will continue to bring up the national parks episode that we did years and years and years ago, and our community still loves it. Think about your kids when they were young. You would go to tell them a nighttime story as they were going to bed. They always wanted the same story. They wanted Goodnight Moon, or they wanted whatever it is that they wanted. And we would tell that story over and over again. Unless you're using the same words and just hitting repeat on that episode as a classic rewind, you are going to be bringing the story out different ways, different times. And each guest has a slightly different spin. So keep doing what you are doing. You just have to put your eye on a slightly different goal if you're not reaching that monetization goal that you may have or may not have set yet.
Very interesting. Good stuff. Well, tell us a little bit about your show, Nice Guys on Business. What are you trying to accomplish through the show? What does that look like? So
originally, the Nice Guys on Business was just going to be me and my co-host, and that lasted for about 30 some odd episodes until we ran out of material. I'm like, well, what are Strickland is his name. What are Strick and I going to continue talking about after episode 36? Because we ran out of stuff. There's only so much wisdom that we have. So we started having guests and starting to share their perspective about how they've grown their business, their journey, the things that they've done along the way that have been successful, and wins and victories, the hurdles that they've had to overcome, the hurdles that they're still challenged by, which is totally relatable to your listening audience that's listening to your show. Then about 2 years in, again, this guy Lou came out, and we discovered that there was something else that we could provide. We could provide a service that's actually somebody in our audience was interested in. So we started to explore that. Then we started to do these interview episodes once a week with guests and people like Gary Vaynerchuk and Arianna Huffington and Ron Klain, Biden's chief of staff, and John C. Maxwell. And all of these people would come out of the woodwork because they had stuff to promote. And we would just get a little, hey, I'd love to be on your show. And I'm like, why would Arianna Huffington want to be on our show? I mean, we have at that point maybe 300 listeners. It was because she was promoting something, and it didn't matter how big or small. She understood the value that the podcasting space could provide. So that started to become one of the avenues that we explored, getting these VIPs to sit in the guest seat, because VIPs beget other VIPs, right? I mean, you guys probably have seen that. And then it started to, okay, now we're doing well at this, but how do we turn the corner and actually make money at this thing? And then we really started to focus on, instead of audience growth and community growth, we started to focus on just the dollars coming in. What service do we offer? What call to action can we create? And what opportunities can we find, whether it's through the audience or our guest seat for our show? And man, we turned the corner. Our first month, it made $35,000 at doing this new strategy. Literally, we turned the faucet. It went from off to on, and it hasn't stopped ever since then. And we keep thinking, why did we wait 2 years to figure this out? It's because we had our sights set on the wrong goal. And so when we teach people how to set their sights on the right goal and the right strategy, they oftentimes will do what they need to do in order to get it done.
You know, I love you've learned from your own experience, and now you go out and teach and help others. So what does it look like for your new clients to get involved with Turnkey Podcast? How does that all start, and what does it morph into?
Starts with a discovery call, trying to figure out what is it that they want to accomplish with podcasting. Many times, I guess I use this acronym, get to know your mom, MOM, get to know your market, your offer, and your message. The closer that you can dial into who is in your market, what offers do you have, or what can we create, and what is your messaging, or what's your brand all about? As soon as we can get really tied into those three, success in podcasting is now just a matter of time. It's the challenge when you come into podcasting thinking, I don't really know what I'm going to sell. I don't know who's in my market. I'm not sure how I'm going to put these episodes together. When you have to find those in podcasting as opposed to bringing those to podcasting, it's more challenging. So our first call is really about, let me understand who your mom is, who your market is, what your offer is, and what your message. And then let's try to figure out how do we reverse engineer a show that will serve your market, your offer, and your message. So discovery call into launch phase, then into production phase. Launch takes usually about 30 to 45 days to put together the elements of the show. Production phase, where we've done editing, producing, collateral information, all of the guest acquisition, communications, all of the systems we put in place and we've dialed in so tightly right now. Once we get into the production phase, then you're just off and running, and now we're just fine tuning as we go.
Very good. So tell me a little bit about guest acquisition. What is that getting harder with all the podcasts, or is it getting easier?
It is getting easier for us because the prevalence of podcasting is enormous. Everybody knows podcasting. It's almost like it used to be when you wrote a book, you were the perceived expert in that space, right? I mean, look, I wrote a book called Nice Guys Finish First, and everybody was asking me, how did nice guys finish first in business, and how would that help my business? So me writing the book, I became the quote unquote the authority on the customer experience and customer journey mapping. In podcasting, it's not far off from that. When you have a podcast, people perceive you as, and more than a handful of episodes, all of a sudden people are like, hey, he's got 12 episodes. He must be in this game because he hasn't succeeded to, he hasn't succumbed to pod fade, which is basically, I've done 10 episodes and no more. You guys are well beyond that. So when somebody looks at your profile and they see, crap, these guys got 200 episodes. When somebody looks at my show and they're like 1,600 episodes, do they think I'm a professional at this point in my game? So all we need to do is build content. Let's just build content. Let's just get in there and build content. Then let's use the content that we have built to market ourselves to other people that are potentially interested in podcasting. So as a guest. So I would say it's gotten much easier, even in a crowded marketplace where there is no competition. Because even if there was another podcast that opened up called the same title as you with two guys that do similar what you do, they're not you. So you don't have any competition in this space, and your audience gets to love you as you are. You and Ryan telling your jokes at the beginning, doing your challenge phrases and words, doing your rapid fires, all of the stuff that you guys do. You've created a formula. Whether you feel like it's a success or not just depends on what you're measuring as success and how you're approaching getting there. And that's what we really excel at is, okay, let's take a deep dive into making the show successful. How do we do that? And what does that equate to? And I love doing that when we can turn that light bulb on for a client that's out there in the world that's looking for that. When we can turn that on and then actually make it happen. When we have a show that makes $100,000 a year from somebody that's made no money before us, and we can turn it into a 6-figure show, they'll never leave us no matter how much we charge them. We're not a commodity of podcast production. We are a strategy company that offers production as a convenience to our clients. Does that make sense?
Yeah, makes every bit of sense. Good stuff. Well, Doug, this has been great. Fantastic discussion, and has the wheels of, I'm sure, Ryan and myself turning, and probably everyone in the audience as well. We're close to wrapping up what we kind of call the business end of things. Is there anything we haven't covered today that you wanted to be sure to share?
This has been such a fun episode for me because I oftentimes I'm the interviewer and are sharing the stories of people that come on our show, and very rare I get to talk about the thing that I'm truly passionate about. While I love having guests on the show, I'm truly passionate about helping those that are in this space to turn the corner. So if there's anybody that is either thinking about launching a show or has launched a show and just struggling with, where do I get success from this show? Let's have a conversation. Let's make it happen.
Cool. Good stuff. Well, before we actually close out, I do have to ask if you are willing to participate in our rapid fire questions, which you're familiar with.
Sure.
7 questions. Okay. Let's do it. Ryan, you want to ask the first one?
Yes, I would love to. Question number 1. If you were lactose intolerant, what one food would you still eat?
Oh, boy. Well, since I am lactose intolerant, I have to tell you, the food that I still is my go-to. I love ice cream. It just hates me. But there are so many non-lactose filled ice creams these days. But I still love the what's it called? High test version of it. Real milk ice cream.
Good answer. Same here. Yeah.
Okay. If you could use only one sound effect in your podcast forever, what sound effect would it be?
Gosh, what sound effect? We use absolutely no. We have the worst back end stuff that we do. But I would say something like, "Do."
That's perfect.
I'll send you the little clip of that so you can just use it as a soundbite.
Homer Simpson doing his dope.
Yeah. All right. Question number 3. If you could interview any fictional character, who would it be?
Oh, come on. I got to interview Harry Potter. I want to ask Harry Potter all sorts of, I don't know why, because I'm not a big Harry Potter fan, but if I could talk to Harry Potter, I'd love to. I have so many questions for him.
Good stuff. Question number 4. What's a product or service that you've purchased recently that was a real game changer for you? Sort of a, where has this been all my life type thing?
Oh my gosh, yes. Okay, so sitting on my desk right now, let's see if I can show you guys. Oops, sorry, didn't mean to bang the microphone. I have this Ember mug. I don't know if you guys know what Ember mug is, but it actually is a mug that in the bottom part it's a heater. So
way.
you put your coffee in there. You can keep it on your desk, or if it's on the little cozy unit over there, it'll stay warm indefinitely. But it keeps it, and it has an app for your phone. 135 degrees. You can keep your coffee hot as long as it's in this cup.
I have to get one of those.
Great product.
Yeah, that's going on my Christmas list.
Oh yeah, yeah. We've sold a lot of these. I don't have an affiliate relationship, but we bought them for everybody on our team, and then we promote them all the time on the show.
How's it spelled? Ember, just like you would.
EMBER. I think it's like ember.com or Ember. Yeah.
Cool. Very cool.
Put that link in the show notes. See if you can sell some.
Well, we need an affiliate link.
I don't have one. So.
Yeah. All right. Next question. We're on to question number 5, I believe. What's your biggest irrational fear?
This is so crazy. My biggest fear in life is throwing up. It's an irrational fear. I don't know why I have it. I think I threw up when I was 13. That was the last time. I'm 60 years old right now, and I think my mom must have just completely just smothered me in like warmth and kindness and goodness, and just like, oh, he's so sick. So I don't know why it's a fear. It just is. But I'm being straight with you guys.
I'm going to be thinking about that the rest of the day. That's interesting. Okay. Next to last question. If you had to eat at any one restaurant every day for the entire year, what restaurant would you choose?
Oh, gosh. Okay. So many. If I could only eat at one restaurant, I would probably, can I give you 2? I'm going to give you one.
Sure.
I'm going to give you Blaze Pizza because I love pizza and it's so good. It's just coming out of the oven. I live in a small town called Ojai, California. There's a restaurant in town that's called The Duchess, and they have the greatest food. As long as I don't have to pay for it, if I could eat there every day, that would be great because it's an expensive restaurant, but they have wonderful food.
One of these days I'll make it to Ojai and I will take you to the Duchess.
All right. Come on, let's go.
Can I come?
Yeah,
sure.
Please.
Just invite myself.
We have an Airstream in our backyard. We just surrounded it with a very cool, like, whole little oasis back there. It's got a guest room and an extra bed, so you guys could both come and stay. You wouldn't be able to bring your spouses because it wouldn't be enough room, or one of you could come with a spouse. You pick who's coming.
We will show up someday.
That's okay. You are welcome to be here.
All right. Final question. This one's a little more serious. What do you hope to be remembered for at the end of your days?
You know, I had thought about this question many times before I even got this might be one of the questions, because I think I heard it on another podcast that you had done. I always say on my headstone, I always wanted the words "He made me laugh" put on the headstone. So in addition to all of the other things, the from and through dates and all of that stuff, and I don't even know because I'm not getting buried in a cemetery. I told my kids I want my ashes sprinkled on 3 fly fishing rivers across the country, and I'll tell you which ones I want. But if I had a headstone, it would say "He made me laugh."
That's a great one.
Yeah.
I love it. And the world needs a little more laughter. So
agreed.
Kudos to you. Good stuff. Well, Doug, thank you again for your time today. For folks who want to get in touch with you or learn more about Turnkey Podcast, how can they do that?
Yeah, really easy, non-committal way to get more information about what we do and how we do it. Just go over to turnkeypodcast.com/money. Money, and you'll get a couple things. You'll get 5 ways to make money podcasting and a video series that is in there as well. So feel free, turnkeypodcast.com/money.
Good deal. Well, we will put that in the show notes as well and encourage everybody to check out Doug and Turnkey Podcast and what they're doing. So good stuff. So we were all successful with our challenge words. Good job. Ryan, you had the word.
The phrase lactose intolerant.
And actually, there's a dad joke out there where lactose intolerant is the punchline, but I will not even share it. But anyway.
You used it very well in the first question. That was very, very good, Ryan. You put it in there. It was good. Hey, can I come back and do this again? I want to sit in the guest seat again. Not for the guest seat. I want to interview I want to have the 3 of us and interview a 4th person on the show. Let me know if that's something that's even possible. Sorry, I didn't mean to get off track there.
That'd be fun. We'll do it. So, Doug, your word was, or phrase?
Mine was head-on collision.
Did a great job working it in, and I had toboggan, and I even threw in some chipmunks running it down the hill.
Yeah, you did good. I think we all did good. You know, the thing that helped me out a lot was at the beginning, before we got started, after you told me my challenge phrase, you said, you don't have to use it more than once. There's no extra credit for that. So once I used it once, it was gone out of my head. I did not think about it one more time.
That's exactly the way to do it. Well, thank you again, Doug. This has been a blast. Enjoyed it a great deal. Thank you.
My pleasure. Todd, Ryan, very, very good. And I'm excited to continue listening to your show and getting more wisdom from those in your guest seat.
Sounds good. And thank you to our audience for tuning into this episode of Construction Disruption with Doug Sandler of Turnkey Podcast. Watch for future episodes. We always have great guests. Don't forget to leave a review. Give us a thumbs up, whatever is appropriate. Till the next time we're together, keep on challenging and disrupting, looking for better ways of doing things. And most of all, don't forget to encourage everyone that you encounter. Make them smile, make their life a little bit brighter. So God bless and take care. This is Isaiah Industries signing off until the next episode of Construction Disruption.
This podcast is produced by Isaiah Industries, manufacturer of specialty metal roofing and other building products.